We just kind of shuffle it from this side to that side. And then our executive team asks us for some business direction or some business decisions. And we spend hours and hours streaming through all of this data, trying to pull something together, only then to be caught up with, are you sure the number's right? Leaders know about 10% of their organization. There's too many people, there's too much going on. The top 10%, they ask them over and over again to do the same projects, to be by their side, to work on things with them. There's a whole 90% of the rest of the population leaders don't know about.
I think I would agree on so many points. Mainly is make sure you understand your market fit. And just like you, Jodi, I went down a rabbit hole coding at odd hours of the night and giving very scary vibes in the dark. And that's where it sort of cascades, it runs out of control. Welcome back to the SaaS Playbook, where we sit down with founders and leaders in the B2B SaaS space and talk about why they're building, what they're building, and why is it important. Now, there's no fluff, no theory, just real conversations about building the revenue side of a business that actually works. This episode is brought to you by Hera Digital, revenue architects who build sales and engines B2B businesses actually need. If you're in the market for an engine, please drop a comment with engine below and somebody will reach out to you. Today, I'm joined by Jodi Armit, founder of Alokai, an AI native people intelligence platform that gives leaders a full, unbiased view of their talent so they can make better decisions around org design, M&A integration, and workforce transformation. And what I love about Jodi's story is she didn't come from tech. She came from 35 years of deep in HR and said, hey, this is broken. Let's go ahead and fix it. And that's exactly why Alokai was born. Jodi, thank you so much for being here, but please take some time and I probably have butchered that introduction, but please take the time and do a better job than I did.
Well, thank you, Jenny. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it. So no, you didn't butcher it at all. Jodi Armit, I'm a co-founder of Alokai. And it really came out of the need to solve a problem. We have HR people, I've been doing it for 35 years, as Jenny told you, looking at so much data that I call us data janitors. We just kind of shuffle it from this side to that side. And then our executive team asks us for some business direction or some business decisions. And we spend hours and hours streaming through all of this data, trying to pull something together, only then to be caught up with, are you sure the number's right? So I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. And along came AI and opened the door to some really cool LLM work and our ability to set corporations up for success, their employees up for success by making sure they had all the information that they needed about an employee, like the 360-degree view of a human, not just, oh, this is a job you're doing today and you report to so-and-so. It gives us everything through an integration layer and a single pane of glass. I just thought with this tool, we can now actually have that seat at the table and answer the questions right there on the spot and actually have leaders collaborate with them to see the information as well. So I saw a problem. I needed to solve it and we went.
I love that, Jodi, because I think all great stories start with solving a problem, and even better stories, businesses who last tend to focus on continuing solving that problem. And I think what's really unique in your particular scenario is you didn't come from tech. You just utilized tech to solve that problem. And now we're sort of facing that intersection of this is the problem, this is the tools that we have, let's marry the two and therefore solve and figure out pain. And like we said before, you've spent 35 years in human resources. Now that's a lot. Like that's something that AI will never be able to really drive experience from and wisdom, I would say. And a lot of that in M&A integration and org transformation. But at what point did you go from this is extremely frustrating to I'm going to build something to fix it?
Well, it's funny, Jenny, I've been doing org transformation forever, but I still remember being with a company that's going to make everybody go, oh my God, that's a name from the past. I was with Nortel and they were acquiring companies faster than you and I could drink a glass of water. Like it was insane. And so my job was to go down to Silicon Valley and try and integrate these companies back into Nortel. There was no tools. We were looking at spreadsheets. I remember like late night sitting on the floor with employee files all around me, thinking there's got to be a better answer to this. And at that time, there was a number of HRISs coming out, Success Factors, Oracle, like they were starting to come. And so we were starting to get these HRIS databases, but they still weren't helping us. Great. Now we had a spot to store it all, but it didn't tell us anything. So then fast forward to around 2015, 16, I'm working with Manulife, John Hancock. And the CEO at the time said, well, I want a complete organizational transformation. We had very decentralized work. He said, I want it centralized. I want to see synergies. I want to see this company come together and work as a solidified team. And there I was carrying binders with PowerPoint presentations with colored pens and sticky dots and saying, okay, who wants to say who goes where? It was ridiculous. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And at that time, we were getting a lot better with the HRISs and our coding and developers. And so I was working with a consulting company called BCG. And we realized we still couldn't build it because there's too many if-then scenarios with humans. Like, right, you put an employee in a role and it's just, well, what if this and what if that and what if this? So now fast forward. Now I know you said like I'm not in tech, but most of my life has been in tech, which gave me a bit of a step up because I understood what was coming. I understood what AI was. I understood what AI could do. I understood where it came from, where it is going. And so because of that, fast forward to 2025, when the LLMs really started to take hold, I went, you know what? I think we can actually build this now. So using ChatGPT, I created a product roadmap, took that product roadmap to one of the best coders I had ever met, very smart young man. His name is Dave McCauley. He's my co-founder. And I said, can we build this? And he took one look at it and he goes, oh my God, I think we can. So we were off to the races. He was playing in AI and doing AI engineering, creating AI engines. And I was the content. I was the product person. I was this is what it's got to do because we need to solve this problem. What's really cool is because I've been in HR for 35 years, I have a huge network of HR colleagues. And so I get to reach out to these people that are, very, high level CHROs and say, what would you want it to do? I'm like, okay, sit down. It needs to do this, this, and this. So I'm getting firsthand information and feedback from people who are still in the trenches and still trying to get it done.
I think you've touched on so many important points there is one, the actual layout of how startups typically start. One, we touched on this before, is actually solving a pain point. But then, typically speaking, the person who identifies the pain point is not necessarily the person who builds the product, which when I speak to many founders on this podcast, it typically is the case. And I feel like, Jodi, you're like the brains and the brawns when it comes to actually the front end, and then you've got your co-founder as the back end. And that's what makes for a really synergistic team. Now, when we look at actually deploying and testing in the field, in the trenches, boots on the ground, I love that you have still those connections that you can just be like, hey, there is no sort of pitch. There's no ickiness about it. It's genuinely, I'm trying to make a product that actually helps you, help me help you. And give us that feedback, right? I mean, it's the best way to, at least in my opinion, to move forward and test the product and make proof of concept before we even deploy to the wider market.
Exactly. And really understanding your market fit. So that was one of the things that I've got to say to other founders, that the mistake I made is I started geeking out on it. And because I was so excited by what it could do, I was like throwing up on people and it was too much. I'm like, it could do this, it could do this, it could do this, it could do this. And so you really, when you're solving a pain problem, but you still need to understand what your wedge is. You need to understand the market fit and where you come into the world. And so I had to take a pause, surrounded myself with an extremely strong team. I've got a CRO who is Facebook employee number 5 from Canada, Ainsley Guthrie. He's phenomenal. I've got a CMO, Casey Gannon, who has taken companies from nothing to scaling companies. Super smart woman. I'm so grateful she's on the team. We just hired a PhD in AI and data. And like this team is just really taking it to that next level. And they're the ones forcing me to go, yeah, but we hear you and we understand how excited you are. And we understand all the things you wanted to do, but let's stay focused and let's stay really specific on what it was. So we kind of peeled back the onion a bit and we said, when you're looking at organizational transformation, whether it's an integration of a company you acquired, it's a reduction in force you have to do, it's a strategic pivot, whatever it might be, what you need to be able to do is see numerous scenarios before you make a decision. So we had to make it so that it was user friendly. You could give it prompts. You can give Alokai prompts to say, you know what, we want the entire sales team reporting directly to the CEO. We don't want it into, a CRO. You can do all sorts of different prompts with it and tell it where you want everything to sit without having to manually figure it out yourself. So it's like a partner with you. You're able to tell it, this is the perfect view, and it creates it for you. And then because you can continue to do this back and forth, it's like working with somebody who can create a PowerPoint presentation, like a 36-page PowerPoint presentation in like 3 seconds. And you go, oh, I'm in love with you. And so then we got to really even a little bit more specific. And we said, okay, let's talk about M&A and integration of companies, because this is a really big pain point. And so what we were able to do is to look at Alokai and say, we need you to look at 2 companies. We need you to look at multiple data sets. We need you to then create an org structure based on what we want: standalone, hybrid, don't lose any talent, cost reduction of 30%, whatever it is. You tell it and it creates it for you. And so now you are working in a place of knowledge, because you see single pane of glass of every employee from both companies. This company you've just acquired, you have no idea who those people are. You can now see it full scale. And it takes something that took me, I was doing acquisitions that were taking me 2.5 years, down to 3 hours. Like I just can't get over it. So, but again, as a founder, you've really got to be specific. You can't geek out like I did and go, we can solve all of HR's problems with one tool. And I was getting overexcited. And listen to your team as they say to you, keep coming down, get what's the market fit, where's your wedge, how are you getting in there, and have them guide you to that.
I think I would agree on so many points. Mainly is make sure you understand your market fit. And just like you, Jodi, I went down a rabbit hole coding odd hours of the night and giving very scary vibes in the dark. So, and that's where it cascades and it runs out of control. And I think so many times in this podcast, we've had very similar conversations with other founders: is stay focused on what you're trying to solve and who you're trying to solve it for. Because as soon as you start to lose focus is when things aren't going to go as planned. But I think as well, having a team around you that can really pull you back and be like, hey, Jodi, pump the brakes a little bit. We need to focus is more important than any other tool that we can really build, because it's ultimately the people around you that keep you accountable. And I think that's rare. It's very rare to find people that you work well with in a business setting. But you've said that leaders were making major talent decisions with limited or one-dimensional data. What did that actually look like in practice, and what were the consequences when those decisions went terribly wrong?
Yeah. Oh, there were so many for each use case. So like if we looked at a leader having to do a reduction in force, which unfortunately has to happen often in business, there would be people in the organization that what we called was that original context. They had information, legacy information that nobody else had. And because data that HR people are looking at is one dimensional, so you're talking spreadsheets. If you're lucky, you've got like one spreadsheet and the columns go out to AX, like it's ridiculous. Or you've got PowerPoint presentations, or you're searching through all this data. You can never see the full impact of the person. The other thing is, if you've got somebody who's been in the organization for a long time, their resume is old and outdated anyway. So even if you did find it, yay for you. So what we do is we pull in information from LinkedIn and other places to continue to enrich people's information. So when you're making decisions and then this is the other thing, leaders know about 10% of their organization. There's too many people, there's too much going on. The top 10%, they ask them over and over again to do the same projects, to be by their side, to work on things with them. There's a whole 90% of the rest of the population leaders don't know about. And so without having that data and without being able to see it, you do a reduction in force. You say, well, here's a whole chunk of people. I don't know them. I don't really know what they're doing. Not really too sure if their role's needed. You put them on the termination list, you let them go, and then things fall apart because you just let go of that one person who knew that one legacy system that no one else knows how to use. You let go of a role because you didn't understand what that role did and the domino impact down the road where it went. Then you're scrambling. So now all of a sudden you're looking at that top 10% of those people and saying, well, you take this on and you take this on and you take this on. Guess what they do? They quit. They go, I'm not doing this. I am burnt out. I'm done. I'm quitting. So now you're in a free fall. So and I watched it happen over and over again. And that's just a reduction in force. Let's do an acquisition. You just purchased another company and you're bringing it into your organization. And the reason you purchased it was for their technology. Well, you and I both know technology doesn't stand by itself. You need the people to run the technology, right? So because the integration takes months and months to do, people, especially the top talent, don't stick around to see if they're going to have a job when the carousel stops. They go out and they find themselves a job right away. And so now this acquisition, you're now down to a 50% retention rate because all the good guys are leaving. So why'd you do it? So now all of a sudden your ROI is not there on the integration that you've done because you can't get to the data fast enough. You can't make decisions fast enough. You can't see information about these people that you just bought to actually give them any kind of feeling of security that they're going to have a job in the new organization. And again, it's just because you're digging through spreadsheets, you're digging through HRIS databases, you're digging through like old one-on-one notes. You're trying to read as much as you can. I mean, we're human. Like there's only so much we can do, right? You give it to AI and it doesn't stop. Like, it's just like, I got you. Like,
Yeah.
right?
You're like, I've been waiting for you to ask me, and now I'm locked you in, right? And now you go down the rabbit hole again. Oh man, like,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
crazy though. But it's like, I think what's so dynamic about what you're building at Alokai is, I think when we initially spoke, Jodi, we sort of spoke on the acquisition side, and we really didn't really dive into even just what does that actually the org side look like, and what is the actual day-to-day pains of as a byproduct of that, right? And I think what is really interesting is when you say spreadsheets, I literally tense up. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God. I've never been good at spreadsheets, and my previous employer would attest to this. But I just don't like it. Funny story. They actually told me to go on a course to learn how to use Excel spreadsheets. Imagine if they had sent me to that course and only to find out that that's almost redundant now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is really funny. And now that I think about it, but I think when we look at the trajectory and the upside and the market, the total addressable market for Alokai, when we pull data from HR systems, Google Docs, SharePoint, LinkedIn, and all these different sources, it and builds then for a scorecard on that person, right? When a company sees that single pane of glass for the first time, what's the reaction do you think they're going to have? And what do you think is the surprises that are?
Do you know what's funny? Every time I show this to another one of my HR colleagues, I get, oh, you got to be kidding me. They're so excited. They're like, because the scorecard that Jenny was just talking about, it's broken up into 7 layers. It's not just, I'm going to compare you to your job description. We look at team and cultural fit. We look at leadership abilities. We look at your organizational context. We look at your vertical domain experience. We look at your education, your certifications, any high fives you might have received. Like, we're looking at so much information. Then when you see a score on a person that says they're at 80 out of 100, you know that there's been a lot of data that's gone into giving you that score. And then what is really fun is when you then take the employee and you move them into a completely different role. Like, you could take a CFO and put them into like a CMO role and see what happens. And you watch Alokai in the background recalculate and say, well, your 80 out of 100 CFO is now a 50 out of 100 as a CMO. But then it tells you why. It gives you all of the reasons why it made the recommendation. but better yet, it gives you the actions to take to get that person from 50 back up to 80. So it says, here's the immediate actions you need to take: coaching, training, spreadsheet, training, whatever it might be. And then near term, what you could do in the near term, and then what you do for their future to help them continue to grow. So when I show this, and this is just core. This is when you open it up, that's what it does. I mean, we're not even into the, okay, how do I do version planning? How do I do scenario planning? How do I integrate a company, pull a project team out, and do project percentage allocation? We're not even in that fun stuff yet. They're letting them see their data in a single pane of glass. And where the challenges are is they go, oh, and could you put this in? And could you put that in? And could you put this in? So one of the things in the single pane of glass is going to get it's going to be an eye chart pretty soon if we keep adding things to it. But one of the things is we show someone's compensation, but then we'll also show their team costs. So you'll see, Jodi makes 200,000 a year. The team that's underneath her is $1 million to the company, right? So then I've had HR people say, well, can I see that market data against that role and tell me where they're at against that market data? And I'm like, yep, we can do that. It's, again, AI native. It's so easy to build, right? It's on our roadmap to do that. But I'm going, yeah, we can do that. And can you do this? Can you then go and look at all the resumes and bring people in? And we actually do have that functionality. And I'm like, yep, we can do that. And could you do this? And that's where the challenges are. Because again, remember your market fit, remember your wedge, remember your focus. And every time another HR person sees it and gets excited and says, and can you do? My first response is, yes, we can. And my CTO, Dave, is, Jodi, stop it.
Yeah. We should give you a quota, Jodi. You can only say yes 3 times a month, and therefore you have to really think about what you say yes to.
Yeah. Well, he slapped my hand by making me use our project management linear. He's like, if you have an idea, you need to put it in there. You need to label it and prioritize it. I'm just like, oh, that's that. What?
You're getting managed because I just can't keep up with all your ideas, right?
Well, this is it, right? There's so many things we can do. I mean, the one really cool thing that it's on our roadmap now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having Alokai suggest AI tools in each role. So there's so many cool ones that have come out. One that pops to mind because I use it a lot is Gamma. So, you're a marketing coordinator, an AI tool should be Gamma right away. And then it teaches you how to use it. So, you've now just taken probably 30% of that marketing coordinator's job away from them, the administration growth stuff, and given it to an AI tool. And so the more we can offer that, it changes the whole structure of the organization.
But I think as well, visibility is really important because, with the catalog of tools that gets released almost on a daily basis, I think having a centralized point based on that persona. So if I'm, say, a coordinator or a L&D coordinator, what tools are going to be more relevant to my role and also my personality? Do I need something a little bit more friendly, user-friendly, right? So having that guide, but also a direct visibility across that tool and say, these are the reasons why we suggest this tool is what's going to be really, really basically it's going to change the landscape of how that enterprise then adopts those tools. Because I would assume from high superiority visibility standpoint, you can see, okay, well, Jodi and Jenny both like Gamma. Let's obviously look into an enterprise membership rather than having to pay once-offs. So that's another layer that obviously can get added in, right? And it just, again, it cascades and it runs away so quickly. But refocusing us back, who would be the ideal company for Alokai right at this point in time, as we're sort of deploying? And is the mid-market company going through its first acquisition, or is it sort of the enterprise that's been doing this manually for decades?
You know what, Jenny, we're struggling to answer that question, because what we're finding is we have a company, it's a smaller company, but they do a lot of project teams. They have clients that come in and they have to do this. So they're using it to deploy people onto projects and then to actually do the costing of their project, because it automatically does the math for you. And so it gives you what the cost of the people that you've chosen and it helps you reallocate people or against the RFP proposal, right? Against the number. So we've got people using it like that. And then we've got like a large financial institution that has done 48 acquisitions in over 5 years. And so they would be using it to take all of the data that they have over all of these disparate systems to actually understand what they've bought, what is their assets under management, like where are they at? Because they can't even see that picture because it's happened so fast and furiously for them. So I would love to say when we first launched and we were looking for design partners, which we're still looking for design partners in different fields and different areas because we want to keep pushing the limits. Right now, it seems to be industry agnostic and it also seems to be size agnostic. But we want to keep getting different design partners to come in and try and break it, as you do when you're at the stage that we're at. But every time we get another one, it's like, yeah, that'll work. Yeah, it works for this. So we originally thought we're going to be mid-market, and like we've got a company that's 75 people, and then we've got another company that I think after we did the math, they were getting close to 5,000 people. So yeah, we're all over the map, and I don't know if that hurts us. I'd love to hear from other founders on that because it's something that all of us now as a team, and I've got a number of years of experience on my team. They're saying, no, let's just go for it. Like, let's just keep saying yes and bringing these people in and seeing where would it break? Where does it break?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But also, it's so early on. It's so hard to tell. And because of the product, I mean, when we look, if we reverse engineer or at least look at it from a reverse lens, the problem is agnostic, right? The problem we're trying to solve is agnostic. Therefore, the pain we're trying to solve it for would be agnostic. And it's really hard in the beginning stages. And I'm saying that out of personal experience. I'm like, where do I start? There's so many people I want to help, but where do I start?
Yes.
And I think I agree with some of your co-founders or your C-suite team. Just collect as much data as humanly possible. And then if I'm assuming eventually over time, you'll find your sweet spot naturally and organically. But I think that would mean that if we could give some of our listeners a special code, Jodi, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that we could either reach out to you directly or they can look at some podcast specific discounts for them to obviously join and have those kind of conversations with you as well. That'd be awesome. Don't say I don't look after my podcast guests, the audience. And I guess before we sort of wrap up, I do have one more question for you, Jodi.
Sure.
I think you and I could talk until the cows come home, but unfortunately people have other things to do rather than talk to me. So I do have to ask you, when we look at the process of which where Alokai is right now, we're obviously in beta testing and pilot testing, gathering as much information as possible. But when you're looking at transitioning to paying customers in the next, say, 3 to 6 months and exploring investments and scaling, what does the next chapter actually look like for Alokai and yourself? And what needs to happen between now and the end of 2026?
Wow, that's a really good question. So what we want to be doing is we want to be getting customers signed on. Again, because of my network, I've had some friendlies, we're calling them, that have been doing design testing for us on the product. And so we've been giving 90-day free trials, discounted rates when they turn us on full time. So we want to get to an ARR happening. We're looking right now to get an investment, small investment, but to help us scale, because we do have 3 or 4 bigger companies coming on. And so if we could get some money to make sure that we've got the developers and the customer support onboarding, our onboarding is pretty easy, but we want to do white glove. We don't want anyone trying to do this themselves. So we want to handhold. Again, the onboarding takes about a day. There's no data mapping. There's no rip and replace. We sit on top of everything else. So it's a pretty easy pull. So if we could get a small investment, then we could scale quickly and get everybody in parallel, where right now we're going one at a time.
So for the investors out there who are listening, please drop Jodi a line. She's pretty much just given you the master sales deck in a conversation, and you can replay it as many times as you need. But I know there's a small group, I think it's called Next AI, that I think are Canadian small AI startups focused and who are looking to actively invest as well. So I'm just dropping their name by sort of first name basis so we can tag them. But also, I think it's not going to be hard for you to get there, Jodi. I mean, there's so many releases out there, but the difference is you've already got beta testers, you've already got a clear roadmap, you've already got certain things in place that are ready to rock and roll. You just need a little bit of so that you can get to that really mass deployment situation. So I think what stands out about your story is you didn't just identify the problem, you've lived through it for 35 years before deciding to, I'm done with living in the pain, I'm going to fix it. And the depth of that understanding is something you cannot shortcut with AI. Just want to say thank you for spreading your wisdom and all of what you had to share today, Jodi. We really appreciate you having and taking the time to be on the podcast today. In the meantime, for our audience, please keep building meaningfully. But again, Jodi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for having me.